All right, this video, another Marvel's Avengers video, and today I want to kind of piggyback on some of the concepts that we discussed in my previous video on this subject, and I mentioned matchmaking, in which I was really discussing how companion AI and let's say the difficulty changing and stuff like that, how it works actually against this game, and some of that also can be attributed to the matchmaking, which is the centerpiece of this game. Now, that's the problem with Marvel's Avengers right now. It's not that it's definitely post-patch, right? It's not in that it's live service, and I know some people are going to attribute those bugs, problems, and stuff like that to that. But as far as the core issue now is that it's more so directionless, and that it suffers from trying to do too much and trying to do too much, and not being very good at anything, right? Instead of actually zeroing in on what the core concept of the game really was supposed to be and what it really should be in terms of how they advertise the stuff, which you move from the solo campaign and really to the multiplayer initiative, Avengers initiative. What's happened is that it tried to do too much, one foot in, one foot out, here and there. And what it does is it doesn't make for the greatest in-game experience really for any type of gamer, because it's trying to do too much. And this is one of my worries that I had about this game. But I want to talk about more so the matchmaking. And this right here, I'm just pulling up a kind of point of reference. This right here is a post that was posted 9 days ago from Megan Marie. And she works with Crystal Dynamics. And she had posted this trying to clear up some matchmaking problems or some questions more so. And you can go watch that. I guess I'll link it in the description as well. Go read it. And because Marvel's Avengers is Marvel's Avengers, it's attracted a lot of, when I say normies and casuals, I don't say that in a sense to be insulting. A lot of people think I use it in a derogatory term. No, not always. It's just, it's attracting people, inevitably so, because it's Avengers. Marvel Cinematic Universe has been this extravagant thing that a lot of people feel as if they should have access to, family-friendly, everybody, all age groups, all demographics, and so forth. And because the characters are like this more realistic live model in terms of their design, it was always going to attract those that wanted it to be Spider-Man with Avengers, or wanted it to be this linear experience, even though they were clear. We talked about this in previous videos in terms of how this was being promoted, that you had that campaign that exists, which it does exist, story driven, linear, and so forth. But the main core, why this game is being developed, why it is live service, is centered around the multiplayer Avengers initiative, where you take a character in an ever growing roster and put them more so in a multiplayer setting. That they were clear about that. Some of that stuff is on CD, but a lot of that comes with the expectations. Why so many people are already talking about characters and all this, despite it having these issues. They're talking about other stuff because it didn't really just attract those of us that were looking at it from, oh, this is kind of a unique thing. You have this kind of action combat system. It's basically a looter brawler. And it's action combat system, looter brawler kind of RPG thing going on, which I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome, because it has that live action, that most action combat system that is makes it more unique. This is what separates it from the Marvel heroes of the world and the Ultimate Alliances of the world. And the characters play so different. It's awesome. But instead of digging in on that, you have concepts that are working against it, which also hurt the matchmaking. And that is, I know I'm taking a while to get there, but I have to set that scene, try to address all the points that I know folks in the comments are going to do. But the reason why I said in that last video, as an example, companion AI should have been removed in game. That should have been stuff that more so was limited to the campaign, and as well as select missions, not a base for every single mission. But the reason why that, as well as the difficulty setting, interferes with the matchmaking process, as well as the stupidity of even having the best gear being hit behind single player modes, it hurts the matchmaking. You got to understand, we drop in from the war table, right? There's no real open world thing going on here. There's maps that are like, you go to some of those vaults, elite vaults, those maps can be pretty big, but it's not like an open world setting. You drop in on the mission and they have a little mini objectives in them. Right. And when you consider that there are going to be different people playing those missions, and as it says right here, when it's looking for a matchmaking deal, you're saying has also selected that mission, right? So if you're like, I need to do this mission, I don't have friends that play this game, I want to pick some people up, I don't want to go in a Discord or something like that, I just want to matchmake. Bet they're looking for people that are playing that. Then it has to look at, did you request this type of character that was there? Looking for people that are there. Looking at if obviously the character has to be different from you because we're dropping in differently. You can't have 2-3 Hawks out there or anything. So all of that has to be taken into consideration, while also the leveling thing. And because they have this challenge stuff where, for those that don't play this game, you have up to 4 difficulty settings, which is stupid, by the way. Post game, for the most part, I think that should have been limited to let's say dailies and weeklies and something like that, but not like all of the main missions. I think the main missions, whatever the level is, it is what it is. It shouldn't scale or anything like that. But that's the route they went, and now you have all of these people selecting different deals. And then what it tries to do is, as it mentions here, it can take the 2 to 6 minutes to expand to try to find, okay, well, there's nobody within your range, and then as it says after 5 seconds, the search runs again, expanding the range of hero power levels incrementally, and it could take up to 2 to 6 minutes to expand a full range of possible matches based on population. So it's expanding, trying to find people within the level, and it's all these different things that it has to take into consideration. And when you have something, for example, like right now with the elite heroic hive and the stupid gauntlet thing, where all the best gear is surrounded by that's another thing that you're basically isolating your player base, right? Because everybody's jumping into there right now, because that's the only way, as mundane as it might be, to do that by themselves, to do some of those missions by yourself. You've locked that gear, those drops behind that, and now everybody's playing these single player missions. Not a lot of people are playing the multiplayer in game, though that's what the Avengers Initiative was supposed to be. These are design problems, and I'm not talking about cosmetic design. I'm saying concept design issues that, for whatever reason, Crystal Dynamics leadership was not really taking this stuff into consideration. It's like when you design a map for a multiplayer, and I'd imagine these guys have come from other games. You would think they would think about that. But if you design a map for multiplayer competitive play, for example, you block it out and everything first, and you don't just say, okay, well, this is how it's going to look, this is cosmetically what it's going to be, and that's it. No, you're looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, these are the type of modes that are going to be played on this team deathmatch, capture the flag, whatever it is, demolition, whatever it's going to be. You are looking at it from that standpoint. So there's a ways to like kind of flow, have the people incentivized to go to certain areas, choke points, all of that kind of stuff that has to be taken into consideration before you even get to the cosmetic stuff. You got to understand what the game is. That's a lot. I'm using that as an example, as that doesn't seem to be the approach that they had, though they had something good to build upon. The fact that it was kind of conceptually online looter RPG, but that was more of a brawler. And the fact that, well, it's multiplayer online. And what they did was try to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And this is why so many people are like, well, I want to play it by myself. I understand that, but that tug of war match that's happening between the community right now, they have to commit, and it's going to have to be to the multiplayer guys, because we want to talk about live service and the fact that it's going to be built upon. The reality is that's what's got to happen, right? And that's how it was advertised. That's the whole point of the leveling system and the gear system. That's what it is. But right now what you have is lack of direction and these concepts of like companion AI and difficulty, and how that is it's difficult because again, a lot of these guys, while so many people, even content creators on this, aren't even thinking about this. Not all of them, because they're talking about, well, it's I want this character in the game, that character in the game. We only have this conversation because of that IP, right? If it was a fresh new IP, we wouldn't even be having those conversations, and some of this stuff the community will be talking about, so we can get ironed out. But there's folks that are getting attracted to this game, unfortunately, because of the IP that's attached to it, and you can see right now how dividing in terms of the community it is. And Crystal Dynamics trying to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out was on them in terms of we want to keep these guys around. Yet that want to play a single player, that just want to play as their favorite heroes, though they're already games. You got 25 Marvel mobile games. You have Ultimate Alliance that just came out. So if you wanted to do that, you could have did that. But hey, never mind. We'll say that for another video. Matchmaking, though, is a problem because of it. You have all of those working in combination. The companion AI and what I talked about and why I said those should be completely removed is because, yes, you can put ways like you do in the traditional MMO where you go to a certain area and you can do certain things by yourself. Obviously, the best gear and stuff and loot is going to be held behind doing things together with other people. Sometimes there's things that you can do solo and get great gear. But the idea is you have areas 1 to 2 players, 2 to 4 players. You know, it's isolated times where you do things that are solo. You can have all that in the game while also prioritizing the multiplayer element. And that's what this game doesn't do well because it's working against it. And if you can get, that's what I'm trying. I know the community sits and talks to us, the folks that are fans of myself, fans of this game, and have been talking. I mean, we have 500 people on average. Awesome. I appreciate you guys that are watching this live stream. We're having all sorts of conversation, bouncing ideas off of each other. You guys have helped me do some of the write-ups that I've done to try to get this damn game back on track. There's guys that want this game. They wanted it to be a linear single-player story experience because they're fans of the MCU. So they hate it off rip. And then you have other guys that are shilling for it nonstop, no matter what. The normie content creators and all of that. I get all that, and I exist. I don't want to say somewhere in the middle or anything like that. I'm just a guy that wants this game to be good. I play it, and I do see the issues that happen with it, and it's hard to kind of get those other guys to think critically about some of those issues that you're griping about, like the matchmaking and so forth. And you say, well, this is a problem, that is a problem, it needs to be fixed. That's why they threw the solo. No. This is a design problem. This is a design problem. And the player, some of you may throw out there whether if it was cross-platform, that may help it, and it would. But this is a core design problem, though, that you're seeing right now. This isn't just server related. It's not just server related. Yes, drop in, drop out. Yes, that stuff exists. And some people have thought about the idea of having people be able to drop in mid-game, definitely if they dropped out of that game. I understand that totally. But generally, for the most part, it's been rather smooth when I play with other people that I invite on a strike team. That's generally never been a problem. Yes, there's bugs and stuff that exist, but for the most part, it's been relatively smooth. When you talk about matchmaking, people that don't jump in Discord, they just want to play with other people. Look, that problem is tied to other issues, and they're core design issues. When you do something simultaneously, funnel people to single player modes, it's going to be scarce. People have different levels. People are playing on different difficulties. That's why that should be removed. You have the option of companion AI, so you're almost incentivizing people to do that. These are concepts that isolated, you thought, I can see why they would do that. But then you see the larger problem, and that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, why I think some of that stuff can be and should be ditched for the sake of this game to get back on the rails. And if it keeps 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it's going to be an issue. People talk about the repetitiveness. People talk about certain lack of creativity, design problems. If they have to always take into consideration that you are a companion AI, or all the missions for the most part are going to be using companion AI instead of all live players, they can't have you do creative things because they can't account for that. They can't account for the companion AI because those guys they're the NPCs essentially. So you have to dumb the damn mission down for the sake of taking that into consideration. They can't send you on creative things, split y'all up, do all these different things if that's the case. And that's why you're going to always experience that. This is why I think they should move towards a more 1 to 4 player experience, meaning that you would jump in there, and if you're not playing with other people on certain missions, you just be in there by yourself. Avengers aren't always together. Read books. Hell, in this Empire book, you got some people that are in the Empire Avengers. You got some people in the Savage Land, and some of them in California. You know what I'm saying? Like, they in different areas, right? It's one of those things that it doesn't hurt the concept of the Avengers. They don't all have to be linking up at the same time on a big battlefield and stuff. But that creativity will always be limited, so as long as people don't understand the concept and the design issues that it faces right now, and that they're working antithetical to each other. And I get that because of the IP that's tied to this, people want it to be this. Definitely those single, even again, that part isn't on CD, right? If I already showed you guys the receipts, you go look at, you hover your cursor over the Avengers Initiative, it says multiplayer. Hover your cursor over the campaign, it says single player. If you go to watch the E3 2019, you see that the launch, the campaign was just the beginning. They always say that. The idea, they said, you had Scott saying, or when he was speaking, him and Megan Marie, they were talking about taking the players up to 4 players. That was always part of it, right? That wasn't anything that they just hid in blogs. No, they said it in the blogs too. Go read the Day One blog. I point to. Those are people that are attached to the IP, and they say, "Ooh, this is more of a live. This isn't cartoony. This isn't Legos Avengers. This isn't I don't know, Heroes." Right? Omega Heroes. This isn't Ultimate Alliance. They look more realistic. So they wanted it to be that experience. And some people even got it with it, unfortunately expecting that. And they still want it to be that, though that is what's dumbing down the game. And you can say, well, why can't they do both? Allocation of resources and understanding the design element is something that is like pulling teeth to try to get some of these guys to understand that. You are bogging the game down, bogging the concepts down if you have to always account for that type of player that's on the complete opposite side of the spectrum from that type of game. It is a looter, brawler, online RPG. It has elements that are similar to Destiny, though it's not Destiny. Embrace it. And it's ironic because Destiny 2 has some of those same issues when it first came out, trying to be too broad in terms of who it attracted, in terms of trying to get everybody's money. And I guess I understand why they do that initially, but if they don't pivot, all you're doing is pushing out those that would be your dedicated hardcore fan base. And thankfully, Destiny, they did pivot on that. Marvel's there's a fork in the road right now, right? New systems are coming out, new games are coming out. Do you want that core fan base to be there? You embrace the uniqueness of your game, or do you want to sit here and have this sort of half-ass, and you're dumbing the game down, doing nothing great because you're trying to make it too widely accessible, as if that's a crime? People playing on different difficulties. I'm looking at the Reddit thing, screenshots. Oh, I didn't get an exotic, or I got crappy loot after doing this hive, and I'm playing on normal, challenge 2. Then you got people that are playing on easy, challenge 1. Not really that good at the game, expecting exotics. These are design issues. You shouldn't have given them the option. Oh man, I should be able to select the players differently. Those Ultimate Alliance or something like that. I can move in and out between players. The only reason that is even that conversation because you gave them the option in the first place. That's what I'm talking about, it being a design issue. A lot of this stuff is you putting stuff in there in Crystal Dynamics, and you're working against yourself. And it works against itself in combination. Maybe isolated, I can see what you were trying to do, but it was a bad idea. And then you have, hey, you can't unlock this until you play with this character, all sorts of stuff, pissing people off because they don't want to play as some of these other characters. They want to main. Let them main. You are doing things that not only hurt your matchmaking, by the way, but hurt the overall feel of the game and the overall flow of the game, because you're trying to do and embody all these types of people instead of just doing what is solid about the game and what makes the game unique and being great at doing that. and just focusing on the multiplayer element. That's what the Avengers Initiative was. That's what makes your game unique. And will that, will that lock some people out? Absolutely. Because some people aren't good enough, they're not skilled enough, they won't be be able to get to certain portions. They can't communicate, they can't have team. Every single game deals with that. I understand it's Avengers, but not every part has to be accessible. And I'm not saying this. People that say I'm an elitist, I only hear that crap when I'm talking about Avengers. I can say this exact thing referring to other types of games, and we don't have those problems. That's all I'm saying. Some of the matchmaking issues, and not just the matchmaking issues, but some of those are caused by core design problems and stuff that you guys keep wanting them to expand on. Until that gets realized, I'm not even talking about the audience, I'm talking about Crystal Dynamics, the developers at the end of the day. This game is going to be at this like rut where it's like cool in spurts instead of something that you look forward to playing with your bros constantly at the end of the day or something like that.